No, you want to follow the instructions on page 17 of the candidate bulletin and just make sure you have everything on that checklist there. Something that we haven't mentioned yet is they actually want a photo. So I think that would be fine. Yeah, they don't give you a lot of guidance on what type of photo they want. So a lot of people have asked me that, what type of photo? Like 8.5 by 11? I'm like, I think just like, something you get like at the mall photo booth or at CVS, I think should be more than sufficient. Did you want to talk about procedure to sign up for the exam, or did you want to talk about the exam itself? All right, well, I think we pretty much covered most of the procedure. Just follow that checklist on 17, and you're going to get the certificate from us, the photo from CVS, your bond from your insurance. Seems like you're more or less already headed in the right direction with all that. You've asked your broker to fill that out. If anything, you might provide that information to the broker so they don't have to guess what days you started and stuff, depending upon, because that form, that broker certificate form, the experience form, requires the broker to find out like how many exact weeks you worked there. And if you do that research for the broker, it might make getting it back from them quicker. And say, hey, these are the this is when I started, and this is, almost provide all the information they need. You can't fill it out because it's required to be filled out by the broker themselves. But if you provide all that information for them, it'll probably get back to you quicker. The training in cramming you were talking about. So over the next 30 days, I would not necessarily cram, but I would try to every single day include, like, at least for the next week, just do like 20 minutes a day so you're not like overloading with it, and then start to ramp it up as it comes closer to your potential exam date. Can I give you some advice for the exam? Let's focus, but let's go back to the exam because time's is on the exam itself, I don't know if you want to ask me any questions about it, but I felt I really wanted to provide you, and I don't know if I mentioned this during the webinar or whatever, or at any time, but the 2-section exam are in 150 and 90 minutes. So I don't know if I mentioned this at all, but I'd be really careful to use all your time. And for the first section, which is about 80 questions, you get 150 minutes. There's a feature inside the exam interface that allows you to flag a question or bookmark it. And I'd strongly recommend that you answer every question, all 80. And as you go along, if you have trouble with any question, bookmark it. When you get to the answer it and bookmark it, because you don't know whether you're going to run out of time or not. So go through them all, answer each one as you go along, even if you're queasy about it. If you're queasy about it, bookmark it. When you get to the end of the 80, then you're going to look at the clock. Oh, how much more time do I have in this segment? Oh, I still have another 30 minutes. Great. Then go back and look over the 7 or so that you bookmarked, and then spend some more quality time with those so you feel more comfortable about the questions that were difficult. And then if you look up and you still have another 15 minutes, then you can go over all the other questions. But you've wrung all the time out. And most people find that they can actually go over the exam twice. Once through it, and then back again on the difficult questions, and then they still look up and I still have another 25 minutes, which is usually enough to read through the other 73 questions that they thought they got right. Not that you're going to make a lot of changes, but you might find yourself, and this is a classic thing, classic people do this all the time, is they read the question too quickly, and they get through the question like 3/4 of the way, and they're like, oh, I know it, and then they answer it, but then they don't read the whole question all the way through. And then the exam service is, basically asking for the inverse, and because you didn't discipline yourself to read the question deliberately all the way to the end, you answered in the opposite, and you got it wrong. So that's a very classic thing. They almost like, if you rush through the question, and not get to the very end, you got to be very careful of what they're asking for. No, they will issue you a writing utensil and probably some type of colored paper or a whiteboard or some. Each exam center kind of handles that a little bit differently, but you can't bring your own pen and paper for security, but they will give you some type of ability to write and make notes or work out a math problem on paper. There is, but I strongly recommend that you go to the dollar store and just buy your basic calculator, because operating the calculator with the mouse is a little clumsy. They allow you to bring a basic calculator, not a fancy calculator, and not your cell phone. So, and then once you're done with that first section, then you can rinse and repeat and use that exact same strategy for the Massachusetts portion, which you go through all of them, flag a couple, and then go back and review the flagged ones. And then again, when you look at the clock, you're going to realize you still have more time. Then you can go back and review the non-flagged ones. And most people can take the exam twice while they're there, so to speak. And it's especially critical. You want to spend more time with those questions that you had tricky with that were difficult. So using that bookmark feature allows you to find those questions and spend more time with the difficult ones, and not waste your time on the easier ones until you're happy with the answers on the difficult ones. And I think this will be so that I think a lot of people get really nervous that they're going to run out of time. They start trying to play beat the clock, and if you've gone through them all, then you don't have to go back and figure out which ones you skipped or anything. And this will save you a lot of time, which will work to your advantage, because then you'll be able to keep a level head. And I think one of the bigger strategies of this exam is to be very to not really have a pulse, but just to be very surgical and deliberate with every question. Because you can start off and get 3 questions wrong and be like, oh my God, what a waste of time, I'll just leave. And that doesn't mean you're going to fail. You stick to your plan and just work it, and understand that each question stands alone individually. And if you get one wrong, or if you're like, I don't know, just go on to the next one and just move on from there and just stick with it. Be very kind of dispassionate if you can. Be like a machine. And I know that's difficult. And when I took my exam, I felt like Tom Brady in the tunnel at the Super Bowl. I was so fired up, probably too much. And I actually had to calm myself down while I was there before I took the exam. But try to be as deliberate as possible and dispassionate about it, and just go on methodically from one question to the other. Maybe not at first. I think maybe I would just kind of study 20 minutes a week for the next week, and then maybe start to pick away. 700 sample exam questions a lot, but the other part of this, I think, aside from the kind of the attitude you go to it, is understanding how they ask the questions. So I tried to get, I don't think you can learn a lot from the questions. I think the biggest thing you can learn is how they ask the question, and get used to how they kind of invert things and keep your mind sharp. And if you get used to that, then once you see them on the exam, it won't be a surprise to you. It won't be the first time you saw that style of writing. And I think that a lot of people have that struggle with it, is that the way they write the questions is incredibly confusing. And if you're not used to that style, then it's a big hurdle. So that's why I think the sample questions are very helpful. And my only other thing is that I'm just going to give you 3 things that I want you to think about. One thing that maybe you don't have this problem, but one thing that I definitely have a problem with is anything to do with giving credit for a certain number of days or a certain number of months. Always confuses me. And the only way that I'm really good at answering those questions is actually writing out all the months. I'll literally write all 12 months out, and then I'll figure out how many and I know that's slower, but I also know that that's way it guarantees me to get the answer right. Otherwise, I'll give the wrong credit, the wrong number of months. I'll get it wrong. So that's just me. And you might have something else that's similar like that you might benefit from taking the long way of doing a question, because it just makes you more comfortable about the answer. So, and I would say you might want to watch, if you're shaky at all in the math situation, you might want to go check out Khan Academy completely for free. There's a number of questions, we talked about these in class, where there's a differential between the national answer and the Massachusetts answer. So just be aware, discipline yourself that in the national portion of the exam comes first, that there are some questions that you answer differently on depending upon which part of the exam you're taking, like when the commission is due and those types of things. You're gonna do fine. You're gonna do great. When's the last time you took a standardized exam? High school or something, right? If you want, we can do this again in early December when we're more closer to taking the exam. Do you want to do it again? I'd be glad to do it. Yeah, let's do it again. Be happy to. You're welcome. Talk to you later. Battery dying. Bye.